Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love. I'm Reverend Tomas, and it's great to have you. Welcome, welcome. Let's jump right into the segment for today's discussion, and that is Chapter 1, Part 3 of the text, Atonement and Miracles. There are 9 paragraphs here, and in this video, let's cover the first 2 today. This is very, very rich with meaning. So let's do, for the purposes of our discussion and understanding today, let's break it down into just a couple of paragraphs at a time. Now, I invite you quite naturally to read the entire section. In fact, I invite you to read it more than once, because that's kind of the way this material goes sometimes, isn't it? Is we read it once and we think, I need to read that again. So if you're called to read it again, it's always a good idea, because you always go back and find something else that you may have missed. It's rereading a passage. And if you've been doing this 30 times and you've read the text 30, 40, 50 times, some of you have been studying this course for decades, literally, we always have the experience of noticing something that we didn't notice before. It's like watching our favorite movie 20 times. The 20th time, you notice something, or you get something in a different way. You see it in a different way than you did the first time. And this course is no different than that, or reading your favorite novel. Same thing. You pick out passages and you see things and notice things that you didn't notice before. And it's almost like it wasn't there before, but it was. What's changed is not the actual wording of the course, but it's ourselves. We've changed. You've changed. So this is something that's worth going back and doing again and again and again. So let's talk then about atonement and miracles. You may be asking, okay, what does atonement actually mean? Great question. Great question. Isn't it? It's one of these terms in A Course in Miracles that's central to the thought system, but that has a slightly different meaning than one we might have in common parlance. And in common parlance, we think of atoning for error, ourselves or someone else's, right? The principle of atonement from A Course in Miracles has some similarities to that, and then this course gives it some different meaning as well, and different definitions. It's not like there's a dictionary definition here, though, is there? In the world, we think of atonement as a reconciliation often, don't we? Of a making as one, a uniting, if that's helpful. We can certainly see it that way. Especially the uniting, the making as one. It can also be seen as healing. And in the section that we've just covered here, the Principles of Miracles section that we took several days going through, one of the principles of miracles is atonement can be seen as an undoing. Yeah, healing, undoing. What is healing but an undoing? It's an undoing of our current incorrect perception as an individual, one of these, an individual self-sustaining survival unit. I love that term. You know, I first saw that on a woman's resume in the 1990s. I thought that was pretty cool. And that's how we think of ourselves, isn't it? Self-sustaining, survival unit. Interesting unit, right? Which implies separation. Yeah. So when we think of ourselves that way, that's, as we see, not perceiving correctly. Now, it's not a sin, it's just a mistake. There's a huge difference here, isn't there? There's a huge difference between a mistake and something grievous like sin. Mistakes can be corrected, and in fact, in the practice of this thought system, we're invited to ask for correction so that we may correct our perception, so that we may heal. We may see things as they are rather than the way we would have them be as separate individual human beings, self-sustaining survival units. So when we offer a miracle to our brother, someone else, right, or a group of people, when we offer a miracle, we're offering it to ourselves, also to Jesus, who is in charge of the atonement principle. As you read the first couple of paragraphs, he makes his role pretty clear, that he's here to help us. Our inner teacher is here to do the deep healing that we ourselves cannot do. That's the deep well of unconscious guilt that we're not even aware of. When that is healed, what happens, what follows from that, is perceiving truly. And that is the goal of this course, is to help us to undo the ego, so that we may undo the ego and see what really is. Now, God takes the final step himself, because perception is perception. There's a subject and object. There's a perceiver and the perceived. We say in this course, God takes the final step himself, because that's our full awakening. We're awake in God at that point. But in order to have that awakening, full awakening, as we call it, enlightenment, you can call it whatever you want, right? Waking up. In order to experience that, we've got to clear our perception, learn to perceive truly. This healing principles known as the atonement, the undoing. And spirituality is rightly viewed as an undoing, isn't it? It's undoing our current way of thinking that has kept us trapped in the world of bodies, that has kept us occupied with shiny objects, that's kept us in space, in time, in these bizarre lines on this thing called a map that we have called nation states, that somebody else drew up with strange looking shapes a number of years ago. Everything we take as being concrete, solid, and real is in fact an illusion. Everything that changes is an illusion. It means it does not exist. It is at first a mind bender, or it can be. Where this is an idea that we come back to again and again with this course. We're invited to share with Jesus an unwillingness to accept error in ourselves or our brother, an unwillingness to accept error. Doesn't mean that people won't go off and run amok in ego land, but we see all of this for what it is: an illusion, a dream, a passing cloud. This thought system is, yes, radical. It aims to turn our perception completely around. 180. Complete 180. So what I want to emphasize here is something that Jesus himself emphasizes in these first couple of paragraphs, is that the power to work miracles belongs to you. The power to work miracles belongs to you. You are a miracle worker. Jesus provides the opportunities, the Holy Spirit provides the opportunities, or if you prefer, the universe dishes out the opportunities for forgiveness, but we must be ready and willing, right? We must be ready and willing to forgive because, well, we have plenty of opportunities, don't we? Every time we pull out our cell phones and check our Facebook feed, people are behaving badly. If we don't have Facebook, we pull out our news or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever you're on, whatever platform you're on, there are people behaving badly. There is hatred, there's discord. People post ideas and opinions simply because they can, and they may impact you. All kinds of things are opportunities for forgiveness. The dog barking at what I'll never know is also an opportunity for forgiveness, which I will not edit out. This I offer you for free. It's the perfect teaching moment, isn't it? Because things don't go according to our plans in the world. Anything that causes any sort of feeling of discomfort or upset or anxiety or condemnation, anything at all is an opportunity for forgiveness. And these are provided for us in our day-to-day experience of life. Now, if you are sitting here thinking, I don't feel like a miracle worker, not today, maybe not ever, right? How can this be that I'm a miracle worker? Understand that miracles are a simple shift in our minds. They are a simple shift, any shift from fear to love. Any shift from the thought system of the ego to the thought system of the Holy Spirit, which is presented here in this course. It's any shift at all. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. So simply smiling at your neighbor, simply waving hello, is just as powerful as moving mountains and raising the dead. Jesus means this quite literally. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. So you don't have to raise the dead. You don't have to heal the sick. You don't. Understand that healing is done in the mind, on the level of the mind. That's what heals. The physical body follows the mind. So the point is not necessarily to improve the condition of the physical body. This course doesn't operate at the level of the physical body. And if you've been through the workbook, you'll remember the 20 straight lessons right dab smack in the middle of the workbook that have us commit to solid memory. I am not a body. I am free, for I am still as God created me. The rhyme intentional, so it sticks. 20 straight lessons, lessons 201 through 220. But if you're doing the workbook and you haven't reached that yet, don't skip to them and do those. Do it one lesson at a day, at a time, in order. Right. And that would be a preview. These ideas are, of course, something that the ego rejects. Quite naturally, quite naturally. It's on the run, for sure, because you have entered the path. Because you have begun to entertain the idea, even if it's just for a split second, that in fact you are a miracle worker. And I insist you are. Each of us is a miracle worker. We have multiple opportunities every day. All we need to do is show up in our mind. Yeah, show up and be ready and willing. One quick highlight from paragraph 2. You are the work of God. Mm-hmm. You are. Each of us is a miracle worker. Each of us is a work of God. And it's worth repeating over and over again that life, as we know it here in the world, is a constant opportunity to forgive. The images present themselves in what seems like an ongoing parade, and some more days than others, right? They can be really thick sometimes. And then you can feel great. Everything that we see apparently out there is symbolic of the content of our mind. So what we're supposedly seeing is our own projection. It is. It's an image on the screen. And painful moments are opportunities to forgive. Beautiful moments are also symbols. They're symbolic of our oneness. They're symbolic of our beauty, of our limitlessness as Christ. Like a cute baby animal, or a nice warm hug, a sunrise, a sunset, yeah, a beautiful flower, things like that. Everything that we see that appears to be outside us is symbolic. This is also symbolic. The more we forgive, the more habitual it becomes. That's why any spiritual tradition repeats its lessons over and over again, so that we may develop a habit. A Course in Miracles is no different than any other tradition in that respect. The orientation and what this course actually says and what it invites us to do is in fact quite different than many traditions, isn't it? So what I want to close with is that this may be your chosen path. It is not, if you're wondering if this is for you or not, you'll have to listen to your own inner teacher on that one. Won't you, right? There are many doors. A Course in Miracles is not the only way to awaken. It is a path, and you may choose this as your path. It's a complete path in and of itself. It aims to undo the ego. You may include this with a practice of other traditions. That's completely up to you and your inner teacher. This certainly aims to undo the ego. And after all of this time of suffering and frustration, whether you believe in what people call rebirth or reincarnation, what body? But whether you believe there's a continuation from one lifetime to the next or not actually doesn't matter. Think of this lifetime right now. If you don't believe in past lives, that sort of thing doesn't make any difference. No difference at all. We only have right now. So think of this lifetime and all of the pain, all of the suffering that ego identification has brought. I invite you to think about this because it helps us to formulate the wish to find peace. And as it turns out, we don't have to find and look for it. It's always there. It's who we are. We are the work of God, which is peace. It is love. What we're doing is simply clearing the blocks to our awareness of this. So we'll continue on in this section here. This was only the first 2 paragraphs. There are 9 of them. So we'll be back. And I, of course, invite you to go through this material again and again. Videos like this are intended as a supplement, as an aid to your understanding and practice. They're not meant to substitute for said practice. As you know, it's an adult endeavor and we can't get around it. I know. As much as we may want to sometimes. So, thank you, as always, for joining me. Subscription button's right here, the red arrow. I'd love to have you join us here, and thank you for all of your questions and comments. This is an invitation, an open invitation. If you have questions and comments and things that you would like to discuss right here, I'm more than happy to do it. Thank you, as always, for tuning in and for your dedication to your practice.